This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Scott Howell.
Hello, good neighbors, and welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast, brought to you by the Friends and Neighbors Group of the Greater Chattanooga area. My name is Scott Howell, of course, and I'm your host. A lot of people ask, what is the purpose of the Good Neighbor Podcast? What's this all about? Well, what we do is we strive to bring awareness to the residents living in our communities of the locally owned and operated businesses that are in Chattanooga, the Greater Chattanooga area, of course, including Cleveland, Dalton, and as far west as Jasper and all the way over to Polk County and Benton, Tennessee over there. So we're just, all the communities are really important. All the small businesses in our communities are important, and they need our support. And, every local business has a story to tell, and we just want to we want to help shout it from the rooftops. And joining me today is our good neighbor, Joshua Gass at Floor Covering International. Joshua, thanks for being on the podcast with us today.
Hey, Scott, happy to be here and appreciate you having me on.
That's our pleasure. We want to learn all there is to know about Floor Covering International and what you offer, our listeners out there. They're very interested to know. But before we dive in, Josh, would you like to share anything personal with us about yourself or your family?
Well, I'm originally from Kentucky. I was born and raised there. I moved around.
We won't hold that against you, Josh.
I appreciate that. I moved around a little bit with some previous jobs that I had, and then I landed here in Chattanooga back in 2011, and this is now what I call home. I refer to myself as someone who's from Chattanooga. I'm pretty sure this is probably where I'll spend the rest of my life. I love the area. I love the community, and this is a great place to start and own a small business.
I've heard that from so many people about, how that they came to the Chattanooga area from somewhere else and love it so much and appreciate the beauty and the opportunity here that they don't want to leave. I mean, so many people have established businesses here, not just moved here and worked for somebody. They have actually established their own business. So I think it's awesome. And I love the Chattanooga area as well.
Yeah, for sure. And, I've said this a lot. I meet a ton of people in Chattanooga that are not from Chattanooga, and that really speaks to the area, right? There's a big draw here. And I think the secret's out. I think used to Chattanooga was kind of an unknown gem in Tennessee, right? And the secret's out now. People are bypassing Nashville and coming to call Chattanooga home now. Yeah,
well, and a lot of folks are to thank for that. The Chamber of Commerce has done a wonderful job promoting, Chattanooga and many other organizations too. So a lot of thanks. But the beauty of the area, I think, is what keeps people here.
The for beauty sure.
And it's the opportunities here, but Josh, let's dive into the Floor Covering International. Tell us about what you do, what you offer, and tell us about the journey of how you came to this point with the company you're with.
Okay. Yeah. So Floor Coverings International, we opened this business just shy of 3 years ago here in Chattanooga. But there's actually over 240 locations across all of North America, including Canada, which is why we are able to use the international part there, right? Now, of course, being in Chattanooga, there is no shortage of places to procure flooring, right? I mean, we're less than an hour away from the flooring capital of the world in and around Dalton, Georgia, right? Yeah. So, it's definitely a tough market. However, we offer something a little bit different. We don't actually have a brick and mortar showroom that people come to. Our showroom is on wheels. Okay. We have what's called a mobile showroom with over 3,000 samples of different flooring types. We go to the customer's home at no cost to them. and we provide a free consultation. It's a design consultation. We'll come in, we'll measure the space, we'll talk to the client about what it is that they're wanting to get out of their flooring project. And then we pull samples that make sense for the customer based on what their design preferences are and their budget, and anything else that's really important to them. It really cuts through a lot of the clutter because it can be pretty overwhelming into a flooring store, and you've got just thousands and thousands of options to look at. We really help the client get it boiled down to what the right solution is for them. And then once we have decided to move forward with the project, we then oversee the installation portion. Okay. And again, that's a little bit different because in a lot of cases, you're assigned an installer and the installer comes out and that's who you're dealing with the rest of the time. We take a very hands-on approach because we're committed to to providing the client with a great experience. And, part of doing that is making sure that we're very hands-on during the entirety of the project. As far as how we got into this, my business partner and I, we've been in the retail business for over 20 years each. Okay. We worked for a large corporation. We learned a lot over those years, and we decided that, there tends to be a hole in the industry around home improvement. And one of the things that you see and you hear about are people having bad experiences, right, around the home improvement industry. And that's something that we both kind of felt like, well, look, if we can fill those gaps around the customer experience and, provide great options around, what flooring solutions we can provide, we should be able to really come in and make some noise in this area, right? And that's just what we're doing right now.
Okay. Now you mentioned that there's a lot of locations, but just so our listeners can know, you actually own a franchise, though. That company sold you a franchise, so you are the local owner of your franchise, right?
Yeah, that is correct. So each Floor Coverings International location is independently owned and operated, and we are no exception to that. Okay, all decisions, how we operate, come from myself and my business partner. The franchise really provides the framework in terms of the brand and how the design of our logo and just the general business model. Right. But everything else is in us.
Yeah, they gave you a place to start instead of having to start from scratch. Yeah. Exactly. The reason I wanted to point that out is because we focus on locally owned and operated businesses. And the reason somebody asked, well, why did you say owned and or operated? Well, because a franchise is owned but also operated by local people. So it's connected to a large corporation, but it is still owned and operated by somebody local. So that's what we want to do. We try to stay away from showcasing businesses that are owned by a corporation somewhere and ran out of the state, out of the city, because that's competing with our locally owned companies, right. So I just want to point that out. We definitely don't care how I definitely
appreciate you pointing that out, Scott, because that's a great point. And that's one of the things that we make sure and highlight whenever we are visiting with our clients is that, look, this may be a nationally recognized brand, but it is owned and operated. Everybody coming into your house is here locally. Okay. This business is built with local people.
Yeah. So, the large retail stores, their employees their workers are employees. And there's a difference when it's a franchise. Some people don't realize that. And I just always like to point it out. Franchise is still a local business. It's just you purchased it from a company who kind of gave you a platform to start with, whereas a lot of people maybe started from scratch and built it up. So but it's still locally owned, and I want to highlight that because sometimes I do have to turn down people wanting a podcast interview because they're not locally owned. Right. So I want to point that out. So, but But now I want you to talk to me a little bit about some of the myths and misconceptions that you hear in your industry. And I kind of like to point it out towards one particular angle that you just talked about a while ago. You said that you don't turn it over to an installer and then you walk away and now they're dealing with an installer. You're hands-on throughout the whole business. So what are some of the myths and misconceptions that people have regarding the installer and laying the floor and doing it right and not shortcutting?
Well, so shortcuts are a big one, right? That's the thing that people worry about, right? Is like, look, the person that I'm talking to during the consultation portion of the visit seems to be very invested. Am I going to get that same experience out of the subcontractor that shows up, right? So that's a legitimate fear that people have, particularly if they've been burned before, and which is why, first of all, we're very particular about the installers that we bring into our business. And then we actually have a production manager that goes and oversees the installation process for two reasons. Number one, we want to make sure that the promises that we've made to our clients are upheld, but also it's to make sure that our installers feel supported. Okay. I've talked to and done business with a lot of flooring installers, and it's not like these are bad people. Okay. It's just that in a lot of cases, these guys don't feel like they're getting the support that they need in order to effectively deliver on the promise that is made during the sales process. So that is a gap that we have really honed in on, making sure that, we can fill that gap, right? That we can make good on the promises that we make to our clients, and show them, hey, it's not all bad out there. There are some of us out here that are really committed to giving the customer a great experience.
When you say that, that's what I hit on. A salesperson makes promises that don't get related to the installer, and the installer is doing the job the best they know how, but don't realize what's been promised, maybe some extra things or something been promised to the customer. So I like the way you pointed that out. I think that is probably one of the biggest gaps of communication, So if you're saying you're sealing off that gap, so the communication is all the way through, you're actually coming back while the installation is going on to make sure all your promises are being fulfilled. That's a huge benefit to the customer, obviously. So, you kind of getting over on the personal side a little bit, Josh. I keep calling you Josh. Your name's Joshua. I'm sorry. I've got a good friend. His name's Joshua.
I refer to either one. It's okay.
But one of the things, on the personal end of things, you have a life outside of business, obviously. So a lot of times people like to know when they're dealing with somebody, hey, what's old Josh about? What's he like? So tell us about what you do for fun when you're not working.
Well, Scott, you talk to a lot of small business owners, and particularly a small business owner that is as young in our business journey as what we are. The balance of time outside of working on the business is much smaller right now in the phase that we're in, right? So the time is limited. So it's important that I spend that time very wisely. I spend a lot of time with friends and family. I do have family that are out of state, so I do take advantage of any opportunities I do have to get back up there, see my mom, see my dad. But from a hobby standpoint, I've always been pretty physically active, and beginning in 2018, I started doing a martial art called jiu-jitsu. You may or may not have heard of it. It's a grappling art, and I love it. It's one of the most fun things that I can imagine doing. I train about usually it's 3 to 4 times a week. And it's a shameless plug here, Chattanooga Grappling Club over in Red Bank. If you're interested, come check us out. It's a small group of people who like to train, and nobody's in there trying to kill each other. We've all got day jobs, right? But we're in there, we're being active, and it's a lot of fun, a lot of camaraderie there built whenever you're sharing time on the mats with other people.
Okay.
So it's a great community as well.
But, and you know, getting a little bit more personal, has Joshua Gass, I know you're still kind of a young guy, but have you had any what I would call life challenges that now that you've rose through them, come through that and rose above it, that you look back and you realize that it made you a stronger, better person than you were before?
Oh, yeah. You know, I can't say, you know, that I've had some major like life-changing event in my life. I've been very fortunate and very blessed that I, you know, I've had adversity, no doubt, just like anybody else. But I think to answer your question there, you know, so where I grew up was a very small coal mining community in Kentucky. And I actually worked in the coal mines for 2 years right out of high school, making some money to actually go to college. I was the first person in my family to actually go to college. And well, you know it, I went and I actually graduated, amazingly enough. And I always knew, you know, I could go back and work in the mines. My dad worked in the mines. My dad's dad worked in the mines. I just come from a long line of coal miners. Right. And, you know, when I look back now, right, I'm 41 years old. When I look back now, I am so thankful that instead of going back and doing what would have been the comfortable thing for me to do, which is go work in the mines, because you can make good money in the coal mines back then. But this was, you know, 20 some odd years ago. Now that industry is pretty much gone. Okay.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot where, you know, if I would have just made a different decision back then, man, how much different my life would have been. Right. And, you know, my heart goes out to those communities because, you know, you've got entire communities that have been, you know, devastated economically, you know, by basically the disappearance of that industry. Not to say that industry is a great industry. I'm just saying, you know, from an economic standpoint, you know, people built their livelihoods around that for decades and decades, and now it's really gone. So, you know, I think for me, just almost probably getting lucky that I made that decision to do something different with my life, put me in a position where I never thought I could be a small business owner, you know. You know, when I was working in the retail sector, you know, I had become a market manager for a large corporation, and I thought, you know, I'm well beyond probably what I was probably supposed to do. You know, I kind of felt lucky to be here, and you know, when we had the opportunity to open our own business, as nerve-wracking as all that is, and as exciting as it is, you know, I look back and I'm like, wow, I can't believe it. You know, I own my own business. You know, it truly is, you know, a great feeling to be able to do that right here in the United States of America in an area like Chattanooga. You know, I mean, I feel so lucky. So.
You know. Getting back to the business side just a little bit, you've told us a lot about what you do, and you know, there's a lot of good thought process in what you told us about staying with the project all during from front to back, from start to finish. But outside of what you told us, looking at yourself personally along with your business, if there was one thing that you wish that our listeners knew about Joshua Gass and Floor Covering International, but they wouldn't know it unless you told them, and you would like to shout it from the rooftops today, what would that be?
Oh, wow. Well, if there's one thing that I want everybody to know is we are here. Okay. There's a lot of folks that don't even know that they have an option of getting a fantastic in-home flooring experience where they don't have to burn a Saturday running around shopping for flooring. We come right to the client's house. Okay. So we make that incredibly easy. The other thing, too, that I want to make sure people understand and really invite them to check us out, go on Google, search for us, check out our reviews, okay? We have got over 100 reviews. We're at 5-star rating. Read some of those reviews, okay? Those are all legitimate. They tell the story about what you could expect from Floor Coverings International, which that's all I think people really want is they want to get a flooring solution that is right for them, and they want to have a great experience. Okay. And that's what we do. That's that is our whole intention of starting this business here, is to go out there, give people a fantastic experience, and deliver a solution that they're absolutely going to love.
Well, I think that everything you've explained today, that people will be really interested to see what you have to offer, especially those really concerned about quality.
Yes.
I think they'll really be concerned about that. So let me just give you an opportunity now to tell people how to find you, how to contact you, whether online or offline.
Yeah. So first of all, our website, it's real simple. It's fcifloors.com. Okay. You can get on there. You can type in your zip code, and you can actually book an appointment right there on the website. Another way to engage us is by phone. We can be reached at 423-497-8900. You're going to talk to a young lady named Jessica, who is our office manager. She's the gatekeeper for us. Everybody loves her that talks to her. You could also, if you wanted to swing by our office, we don't have a showroom, but if you want to pop in and say hello, we're right over here off of Cromwell Road. It's 4295 Cromwell Road, Suite 512. Come on by. I'll make you a cup of coffee, and we can talk flooring if you want to.
All right. Well, Josh, it was a pleasure getting to know you today, sir. Thanks for being on the podcast with us, and we appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me on, Scott. This has been a real pleasure and a lot of fun.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We try to have fun. We try to have a good time. So, and to all the good neighbors out there in the greater Chattanooga area, after meeting Josh and learning more about Floor Covering International, I tell you, I know he hopes you'll take a moment, to consider all he has to offer. And remember him if you're wanting that more kind of personal experience where someone will come to you, will show you their offerings, and it will stay with you from start to finish. That hand-holding from the time that you say, yes, this is the product I want, until the construction is done and they sweep up and leave your house. So he's going to hold your hand all the way. If that sounds like something that you'd like to know more about, reach out to him and contact him and let him know that. And before ending this episode, I'd like to thank you all, the listeners, for taking the time out of your busy day to visit with us at the Good Neighbor Podcast. And always remember to support the locally owned and or operated businesses in Cleveland, in the greater Chattanooga area, all the way down to Dalton. And as I like to say, from Jasper to Benton, Tennessee, in between. And all your communities are very important. All the small businesses are. So let's do all we can to support them. And this is Scott Howell of the Friends and Neighbors Group. Everyone go out and make this a remarkable day.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpcleveland.com. That's gnpcleveland.com or call 423-380-1984.